Billionaire Sheik'S six-language translation revealed incredible insights that shocked experts. Emily Carter felt the day unfold in a frenzy of apprehension. In the cramped confines of her Chicago office, her cluttered desk looked like a battlefield of half-finished projects and the remnants of cold coffee, the stale scent mingling with the faint hint of desperation that hung in the air. She glanced at the clock. Deadlines loomed, not just for her translation firm, but for the honor of her father's legacy. Each tick felt like a countdown to something inevitable, some method of validation she feared she would never achieve. Born into a family of educators, Emily had always been shaped by her father's lessons, words of wisdom that now echoed through their small apartment like a ghost she couldn't outrun. "Education is sacred, Emily," he repeated, often with a gleam of pride in his eyes. But now, with the mounting weight of medical bills and the corrosive whispers of doubt from friends and family, her beloved father's once resonant teachings felt like a judgment on her choice to forge a different path. Translation and linguistics were her passion, not the mainstream career she knew would garner approval. Yet she struggled to breathe in the shadow of his expectations. Before her lay the catalyst that could change everything: an unexpected email. The opportunity to translate a speech from a billionaire sheet had been handed to her like a fragile gift. This wasn't just a translation. It was a chance to showcase her ability in 6 languages and finally earn the respect she craved, not only for herself, but in honor of her father. Would she break the shackles of conventional success, proving that her dedication to linguistics was worthy? But as Emily immersed herself in the speech, the underlying manifesto ignited a tumult within her. What initially appeared as an eloquence about prosperity and success twisted into a harsh critique of economic disparity. Unraveling the subtext became an obsession. She was submerged in the discrepancies between privilege and merit. The urgency of her father's declining health gnawed at her resolve, pulling her back from the absorbing task at hand. Lurking behind every noble thought was a grating reminder of the everyday torment she faced. Would the potential for glory outweigh her devotion to the man who nurtured her? With every revelation she uncovered about the Sheik's perspective, a new wave of unease washed over her. She wanted to champion this cause, yet in doing so, would she betray her father's loyalty toward her chosen path? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The night before her presentation, the stakes felt higher than ever. A tangible fear gripped her heart, limbs frozen in the clutches of uncertainty. Her father's critical health shadowed every keystroke, each word she typed a painful reminder of what she might lose. What could a successful reveal do for her identity, for the burdens that weighed so heavily? As the speech flickered with new insights and urgency, she hesitated. Would unveiling this truth heal her family's pride or shatter it altogether? Before she hit send, a sudden knock at the door sent her racing heart into a tempest. Was it news about her father's condition, bad or worse, or something else entirely, drawing her back from her moment of courage? The air around her thickened, the uncertainty palpable. Would this be the moment that defined her? All of her hopes tangled in the confines of that door, leaving Emily caught in the relentless grip of fear and ambition. As Emily stood frozen at the door, the knock reverberated through her, a physical manifestation of her internal conflict. Would it be her father, or yet another reminder that her world was slipping further from her grasp? Swallowing hard, she took a deep breath, a feeble attempt to calm the storm brewing within her. The door opened slowly, to reveal a delivery man holding a small package. Relief washed over her, swiftly followed by a wave of disappointment. It was not the seismic news she feared, nor was it the life-altering conversation she craved. Just a distraction, an inconsequential detail interrupting her moment of truth. Curiosity experienced an uptick as she took the package from the man's hands. She sent him off with a nod, heart still pounding. She carefully peeled back the tape, revealing a hopeful collection of notes, reminders for her father's upcoming treatments. Each paper held the weight of her family's precarious situation, driving home the dual burden resting upon her shoulders: her father's health and her future. With her resolve fracturing, she sunk into her chair, her fingers hovering above the keyboard. The Sheik's speech sparkled in her mind, ideas dripping with potential, yet heavy with moral conundrums. Every argument she understood was layered with implications, pressures she could distill but struggled to portray accurately in her translation. The fear of failure loomed large, but so did the yearning for enlightenment. She pictured her father's proud smile and the knowledge that she was honoring him with her work. But what if he never reached that pride again? The weight of this thought propelled her fingers into action. She needed to share the raw truths hidden beneath the surface of wealth and power. She envisioned placing this thorny morality before her audience. But what if branding her father's teachings as naive came against the very lesson he had imparted on her? Each decision felt like clambering up a treacherous slope, and she found herself lost in the dualities of her profession, using language as a weapon or a bridge. Emily replayed the Sheik's words in her mind, captivated by his command, yet aware of the stark realities confronting both herself and her community. Where was the middle ground? Steeling herself, Emily closed her eyes momentarily. A visualization emerged, herself confidently standing on stage, the crowd swayed not by the wealth behind the ideas, but by the urgency of the message. What if her voice could resonate powerfully in a way that transcended mere translation, a voice that could advocate for change, rooted in integrity rather than profit? Suddenly emboldened, she began revising. The translation morphed in real time under her fingertips, each keystroke aligning with a newfound purpose. This was more than about her father. It was about those marginalized by the economic gulf that burgeoned across society. A mission crystallized, emerging from the chaos, the alignment of her passion for linguistics with a call for compassion. As dawn approached, the weight of her choices dwindled, replaced by a thrill running through her veins. She was transforming from the scared girl under her father's shadow into a translator seeking truth. This was her chance to honor her father, not just through tribute, but through activism. With the speech refined and a refreshing sense of clarity, Emily hesitated before hitting send. What would come next felt monumental. Yet this act, crowded with layers of nerves and anticipation, was her declaration of independence. The struggle would go on, but now she was ready to face it, not just as a translator, but as a voice demanding change. What would be the reaction once her words were shared? Would she spark dialogue, conflict, or perhaps awaken the very forces she hoped to challenge? With her heart racing anew, she leaned back in her chair, ready to face whatever might come through the currents of her ambition, knowing her journey was only just beginning. The message and the world awaited. As the sun broke over the horizon, a soft light streamed into Emily's cramped apartment, illuminating the chaotic battlefield of her desk. Papers lay strewn, the remnants of her sleepless night spent wrestling with shifting ideals and daunting responsibilities. The computer screen flickered gently, accepting the command she had finally executed. Her translation was sent. An act laden with both liberation and dread. With a final exhale, Emily let herself sink into the comforting embrace of the chair's fabric, the weight of potential consequences pressing down on her. What awaited her on the other side of submission? Would the response to her words be the key to unlocking a path forward, or would it plunge her deeper into uncertainty? Moments stretched into eternity as she replayed the frenzied clatter of her thoughts, analyzing every facet of the Sheik's words she had painstakingly polished. They danced in her mind, calls for genuine change intertwined with an undeniable aura of privilege. Had she truly captured the essence of what lay beneath the veneer of opulence? The realization hit her like a thunderclap. Her voice had transformed from an echo of others into its own formidable force. Yet this newfound confidence drew trepidation from the depths of her being. Would those who read her words recognize the urgency of the message she sought to convey, or would they dismiss it as another reminder of their lofty distractions from the struggles she wished to expose? She tapped her fingers on the desk rhythmically, her mind racing ahead, contemplating her next move. She needed to prepare for the tidal wave of responses she anticipated. Would it be applause, skepticism, or disdain? The thought of facing a chorus of critics was horrifying, yet invigorating. Emily's hunger to forge connections, true connections, grew with each fleeting moment. Determined to navigate this treacherous landscape, she realized she had to delve deeper into her own understanding of the emotional undercurrents that shaped the dialogue she sought to ignite. Equipped with her expertise in language, she understood the power it held, how it could mask intentions or, conversely, unravel truths that lay hidden beneath polished sentences. Revisiting her father's lessons, she focused on the importance of integrity. He taught her to approach difficult topics with empathy and respect, a foundation she could build upon in this next phase of her endeavor. This truth beckoned her to confront her fears head-on, to embrace discomfort as a catalyst for growth. With renewed clarity, she decided to reach out to trusted colleagues, mentors, and even critics, seeking input that could refine her advocacy. Every interaction would be an opportunity for discovery, an exploration of perspectives through which she could further develop her thoughts and sharpen her arguments. As she sat contemplating her next steps, an email alert pinged, igniting her pulse. Could it be? The exhilarating prospect that a response had surfaced sent a thrill racing through her veins. Navigating through her inbox, she clicked on the most recent message. As she read, her heart plummeted. Their words were unequivocal, a direct challenge to her approach. This response wasn't just a reaction, it was a call to arms. They questioned her motivations, the validity of her perspective, and demanded evidence of her claims. The exhilaration she felt moments ago faded into a cold rush of anxiety. The time had come to face her critics, to defend her voice, while also understanding their apprehensions. Would she rise to the challenge, or let the complexity of dissent stifle her resolve? With the battle of ideas prepared to unfold, a shift occurred within Emily. This trial by fire could either forge her identity as a communicator or tear her down, reflections of her deepest fears mingling with the exhilarating thrill of self-discovery. Armed with curiosity and a willingness to confront opposition, Emily prepared herself for the confrontation that lay ahead. What clarity would she find as she faced those who challenged her narrative? Would the backlash propel her into a stronger version of herself, or would self-doubt creep back in? The uncertainty loomed large, and with it came an insatiable desire for resolution. The silence of her apartment enveloped Emily as she read the harsh words etched into the screen before her. Each phrase felt like a microscopic probe aimed at her carefully constructed facade. Doubts crawled through her mind like insects. Had she been too hasty, too naive in her pursuit of truth? The biting email laid bare accusations of insincerity and ignorance, unraveling every shred of confidence she had built over countless hours of writing and rewriting. She resisted the urge to respond immediately, an impulsive defense fueled by emotion. Instead, she allowed the sting of critique to settle in, feeling its weight. This was no longer just about her. It was a mirror held up to her intentions and the very fabric of her beliefs. Was she truly qualified to engage with the complexities of the elite? Or was she merely an interloper peering into their world from the outside? In the quiet aftermath of the email, Emily felt a spark of resolve ignite within her. She would not be a passive participant in this dialogue. Instead, she needed to turn the scrutiny directed at her into a tool for evolution. Invigorated by this revelation, she gathered her materials, now determined to hone her arguments further. Dismissing self-doubt felt imperative, yet she recognized the necessity of validating her perspective through honest engagement with the very critiques that unsettled her. She set up a strategy. The first step involved enlisting the support of a skilled mentor, a renowned editor whose voice carried gravitas in their circle. Contacting him would require a rekindling of an old professional relationship, one that had grown dim over time due to her transitory nature in the realm of freelance work. With shaky hands, she typed an email, articulating her request for guidance. "I'm seeking your thoughts on a translation I recently submitted. The feedback I received suggests I may not have gone far enough." She paused long enough to catch her breath, knowing an admission of vulnerability held power. As she hit send, the rush of anticipation dictated her next movements. A sweeper of thoughts occupied her mind, and with each tick of the clock, she sensed the urgency of her situation compounding. The ticking felt like a drumbeat, the countdown to her evolution. Facing her critics would not only be a matter of defending her narrative, but also embracing an opportunity to delve deeper into the layers of her capabilities. Recognizing the ways her father's lessons on integrity shaped her perspective, Emily understood that a focus on respect and empathy for opposing views would be paramount. She meticulously reviewed the critique that had rattled her, seeking insights hidden within the challenges. If these voices raised valid concerns, their collision with her views could lead to unforeseen growth. That evening, she transitioned into preparation mode. Papers transformed into a wall of thoughts, her space cluttered with ideas and counterarguments as she sought to dissect the complexities of privilege and accountability. She felt a grounded connection to those voices that echoed her intentions. She collected narratives to amplify her perspective, careful to build a mosaic that encompassed various dimensions of the issue. 3 days passed in a whirlwind of research, exchange, and reflection. Each voice she listened to and every article she absorbed pushed her closer to distilling her essence into an informed response. As the tension grew, she began crafting a new narrative, an edgier, more nuanced articulation of her position that both honored the original message and deepened the conversation. It was time to respond not just with defiance, but with clarity. As she polished her words, a palpable tension simmered in her chest. She sensed a shift inside her being. This moment of confrontation was not simply about competence. It was symbolic of her commitment to advocate and engage. With her fingers poised over the keyboard, Emily felt the door of opportunity creak open. What awaited her once she pushed through? Would her intentions resonate, or would the shadows of doubt reshape her journey again? The question lingered, heavy and tantalizing, as she prepared to enter the fray. The moment of truth was upon her. Emily took a deep breath, steeling herself as she clicked send. The email vanished from her screen, yet a tumultuous storm brewed within her mind. What would Michael think? Would he see past her vulnerabilities and offer the guidance she so desperately craved? She felt naked, exposed, standing on the precipice of an unknown outcome. The hours dragged on, and her anticipation gnawed at her. Instead of sitting idle, she decided to distract herself with a deep dive into the critiques she had received. Each line she read sparked another round of internal questioning. Was she genuinely attempting to engage in a meaningful dialogue, or merely grasping at straws to validate her position? The irony of wanting to be an advocate for the elite while feeling so out of place weighed heavily on her conscience. With a renewed sense of purpose, Emily expanded her research beyond the original article's critiques. She sought to understand the history and context of privilege, delving into various perspectives that danced along the complex lines of morality and entitlement. This journey through literature and discourse proved illuminating. She began to recognize emerging patterns and divergent views in the writings of others, urging her to explore questions she had not yet considered. By the third day, after a sleepless night of consideration, she settled on a framework for her response. It was more than just a rebuttal. It was a redefinition of her narrative, one imbued with the voices of the critics she once resented. They were not her enemies. They were contributors to a dialogue she now yearned to extend. Eager to strengthen her argument, Emily reached for her notes and the various articles she had accumulated. A wall of paper mountain loomed over her, each page bearing a distinct narrative piece that could reinforce her message. As she sifted through the layers, a revelation struck her. A way to... By incorporating the critical perspectives she had initially feared, she could enrich her argument and elevate her standing within that elite circle. Suddenly, her phone chimed, a message from Michael. Nervous excitement shot through her as she quickly opened the email. "Your request is timely. I'd be happy to help. Let's meet this Thursday at Penn Station," it read. Relief washed over her, but it was quickly replaced by the familiar anxiety of face-to-face interaction. She had to be prepared, not just with her thoughts, but with the confidence to articulate them like a seasoned professional. Over the next few days, Emily polished her arsenal of points, immersing herself in potential responses to any critiques she might face in her conversation with Michael. It was vital that she could navigate their discussion without falling back into defensiveness. This would be a place for growth, an exchange of ideas rather than a battle. As Thursday approached, anxiety transformed into anticipation. They met at a coffee shop just outside the station. The aroma of roasted beans filled the air, yet her heart raced faster than a train speeding past. The bustling atmosphere felt like an additional pressure cooker, amplifying her resolve. Michael, with his seasoned demeanor, was already waiting. Sipping from a double espresso, he looked composed and attentive. When he met her gaze, he raised an eyebrow in recognition, urging her to speak first. Each moment stretched, and the dialogue began. She shared her evolving thoughts and the layers of complexity she had uncovered, aware of making herself vulnerable. The stakes felt higher than ever, and for the first time, they weren't just about her response to the critique. They were about redefining who she was as a professional thinker in this space. Would his feedback ignite deeper insights, or would her journey reveal flaws in her newfound perspective? The tension within her bubbled as she awaited his reflections, feeling the weight of her own resolve intertwining with her ambition. Emily sensed the moment to pivot was near, and every heartbeat echoed with the question she feared but needed to confront. Would she emerge stronger from this exchange, or find herself caught in the web of her insecurities? What awaited her in this dialogue was a mystery she had to bravely face. The conversation flowed, each word carefully chosen, yet revealing an undercurrent of anxiety. Michael's gaze seemed to pierce through her defenses. She shared her insights, hesitating only briefly when she stumbled on a complex argument. But Michael remained patient, nodding along. It was as if he understood the weight of her struggle to articulate her thoughts. After she finished laying out her framework, Michael leaned back and took a measured sip of his espresso, allowing the silence to settle like the steam curling around their cups. Emily watched, the pause amplifying her nervousness. Did he see strengths or mere posturing in her words? "Emily," he began, his voice calm and deliberate, "your research is impressive. But have you considered that your narrative may be too focused on defending yourself rather than engaging with the actual critiques?" His question struck her like a sharp wind. Was she truly more concerned with her image than the substantive content of the dialogue? She took a moment, her thoughts racing. Did she want to validate herself in the eyes of her peers, or did she genuinely seek to discuss the societal implications of privilege? Emily pressed her lips together, realizing she had walked into an unforeseen territory of self-reflection. "Perhaps I have," she admitted slowly, surprised by her own candor. "But I thought if I showed my vulnerability, it might spark a real conversation." Michael leaned forward, his brows knitted slightly. "Vulnerability is important, but your focus should center on the issues at hand, not just your position. Reframe it as a discussion about what these critiques really mean in the larger societal framework." His words resonated deeply, causing her to reassess her approach once again. She had come to seek guidance, and instead was being handed keys to unlock a deeper understanding far beyond what she anticipated. The exchange shifted from a mentor-mentee dynamic into a collaborative exploration of ideas, and she felt her perspective broadening. As they delved into the complexities of privilege and its societal impact, her anxiety began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of empowerment. She found herself questioning long-held beliefs and discovering new dimensions of her arguments. Ideas flowed more freely, and for the first time, she felt the weight of her identity as a thinker in this sphere lighten. But just as she was starting to enjoy this transformation, a sense of caution set in. Was she genuinely evolving, or merely flitting between theories without committing to any? The specter of doubt loomed, threatening to re-enter her mind as she battled to reconcile her newfound comfort with the anxiety of being exposed to scrutiny. Emily interrupted her thoughts. This isn't just about writing a response anymore. It's about understanding the moral responsibilities that come with having a voice in these debates. Feeling a rush of adrenaline, Emily nodded, her heart racing with the weight of that responsibility. The idea that her voice could shape discourse both excited and terrified her. Would she step up to the challenge or retreat into the safety of her former self? As their conversation stretched on, Michael posed a rather direct question, catching her off guard. "What do you want your legacy to be in this field?" The question hung in the air, a clarion call to examine her deeper intentions. Emily grappled with her answer, knowing that the response could define her path forward. The moment felt pivotal, a fork in the road of her professional journey, as recognition dawned within her. Defining her legacy meant more than just the conversation she had. It was about the impact those conversations created. And as she opened her mouth to respond, the realization that her answer could catalyze an essential shift both in her personal ambitions and professional aspirations filled her with determination. What she said next had the potential to steer her in a direction she had only dreamed of before. Yet beneath that determination lay an uncomfortable truth. Would she be prepared to face the realities of that legacy, especially if it meant embracing her own imperfections along the way? As the words began to form, Emily felt a tremor of uncertainty ripple through her, wondering if this moment could indeed chart the course for her future, or plunge her deeper into a chasm of doubt. The pause stretched on, a taut string waiting to snap. Emily's heart pounded a rhythm of uncertainty. She needed to decay the layers of pretense she had built around her voice, but the prospect of exposing her raw self to scrutiny terrified her. "I want," she started, hesitating. The words felt cumbersome, as if they were weighed down by her fears. "I want to foster real conversations that challenge the status quo." Michael's expression softened slightly. "And what does that look like in practice?" His question was a beacon illuminating her scattered thoughts. It wasn't enough to simply articulate thoughts. She needed to engage and inspire others to rethink their narratives. Could she rise beyond her fears and embody the change she wanted to see? This sudden clarity lit a small fire in her, a spark that ignited a determination to confront the daunting prospect of public discourse. "Maybe I could create forums that encourage open dialogue, spaces where people can express not just their agreement, but their disagreements too," she articulated, her voice growing steadier. There could be more focus on listening, not just reacting. As confidence seeped into her words, she noticed Michael's keen interest, the way his eyebrows lifted and his gaze sharpened. She was no longer simply responding, she was actively shaping a vision. Each passing moment unfolded her understanding, not merely as a passive recipient of critique, but as an agent of change. Yet doubt clawed back at her. Would those forums attract genuine engagement or simply echo chambers for self-righteousness? Is that realistic? She questioned, her brow furrowing. What if people come to force their narratives without being open to challenge? Michael nodded. It's a possibility. The essence of dialogue isn't just to exchange ideas, but to dismantle the walls that keep us from true understanding. The weight of his words pressed against her chest, the clash of hope and fear. If she ventured into this realm, she'd need to brace herself for conflict, the inevitable backlash from those resistant to change. She couldn't merely seek validation anymore, she would have to withstand the storm. I know I might face criticism, Emily said, the revelation crystallizing. But isn't that part of the legacy I want to build? To encourage resilience in the face of discord? Michael's gaze held her steady. Precisely. Growth often sprouts from discomfort. What stands in the way of your commitment to this vision? The question struck a nerve. She realized that her fear of vulnerability was not just about public perception, it was about her own relationship with self-worth. Who would she be if no one approved of her legacy? Fighting the tremor in her voice, she said, "I think part of me is afraid that I won't measure up to my aspirations." His nod conveyed understanding. Acknowledge that fear, then use it. Let it inform your discussions rather than paralyze them. Reflect your humanity. It brings authenticity. She inhaled deeply, Michael's perspective dawning upon her. Vulnerability could serve as both a shield and a weapon. It was a bridge connecting her to others who battled similar insecurities. "Then I will need to prepare myself," she declared, the resolve hardening within her. To engage fully, knowing that failure is part of the process. The moment bristled with unspoken agreement. As they exchanged a quiet smile, a newfound bond formed between them, built on shared aspirations and silent promises. Still, the road ahead loomed vast and frightening. What would be required of her if she delved deeper into this transformative journey? Just as she felt the first stirrings of excitement, the doubts re-emerged like echoes creeping back into the light. Was her commitment to this vision stable, or merely a momentary impulse amidst the chaos? Behind the embers of her determination lay the shadows of the critics she'd soon confront. As they gathered their belongings and prepared to leave, Michael turned to her, eyes bright with encouragement. "Face your fears head-on, Emily. Your legacy starts today, but be prepared, the path is rarely straightforward." His statement lodged in her mind, the gravity of it settling heavily. The moment felt poised at the edge of something monumental, yet the looming uncertainty gnawed away at her courage. Could she truly face the trials to come, armed with her convictions, or would she retreat back into her curated shell? Determined, Emily took a step towards the door, but the echo of her fears followed closely behind, waiting to see if she would falter. Would she find the strength to engage openly, or would fear dictate her silence? In the days that followed, Emily found herself consumed by her thoughts. The spark ignited by her conversation with Michael had not dimmed. Rather, it transformed into a restless energy driving her every action. She woke each morning with a swirl of ideas, and as the sun crested the horizon, thoughts of her forums filled her mind. Each thought brimming with potential, yet heavy with doubt. Her office became an arena of creativity and anxiety. This was the first time she truly recognized the need to channel her vision into tangible outcomes. She scribbled outlines on countless sheets of paper, crafting the ideal framework for dialogue, unsure whether these scribbles would lead to inspiration or disillusionment. Pacing the floor, she wrestled with the question that now felt as omnipresent as her heartbeat. How could she assure safety in vulnerability, when she herself felt so unsteady? Late one night, weary but restless, she typed up her mission statement. To create spaces where voices can not only clash but harmonize, where courage arises from the heart of discomfort. But the statement felt abstract, floating away from her desired reality. How? Applying that theory required more than words. It necessitated stirring others to action without the safety net of certainty. Seeing the gap between her dreams and reality fueled her determination. Emily decided she would test her ideas in small, intimate settings first, a trial run before diving into more expansive forums. She reached out to a few close friends, curious individuals she trusted would challenge her ideas constructively. They agreed to gather for a discussion over coffee, eager to explore the very notion she sought to embody. Hours before the meeting, self-sabotage tapped softly at her mental door. What if they laughed? What if they dismissed her thoughts? Shaking off the doubts, she remembered Michael's grounding words. Acknowledge that fear, then use it. In a dimly lit cafe, Emily finally confronted her vision. Surrounded by friends, she shared her aspirations. As she spoke, the initial tremor in her voice faded, replaced by a passionate cadence revealing the depths of her conviction. Their faces reflected a blend of curiosity and eagerness, questions surfacing that propelled her understanding even further. For the first time, she noticed the power of genuine interaction, the ebb and flow of dialogue that felt both risky and rewarding. The conversation revealed new insights about her own intentions. As her friends challenged her ideas, they pushed her to question her own motivations deeper. Were her aspirations genuinely altruistic, or was she entangled in the desire for validation? One friend, Claire, asked pointedly, "What do you want from this, Emily? What drives you to create these spaces?" The question hung in the air, sharp and disarming. Her heart raced, but instead of retreating from the inquiry, she leaned in. "I want to build resilience." "What if resilience means embracing disappointment, too?" Claire countered. "What will you do when conflict arises?" Emily paused, grappling with the reality of potential discord. The notion terrified her, yet a smoldering ember within her ignited a heated resolve. "Then I will stand firm, listen and learn. I will not shy away from discomfort because it leads to growth." As they discussed various aspects of confrontation, collaboration, and the delicate balance between disagreement and understanding, Emily felt something shift within herself. She was not just a vessel of ideas. She was awakening into a motivating force, willing to embrace uncertainties as both a privilege and a responsibility. The evening ended, but Emily's journey had only just begun. She left the cafe with a renewed clarity, her mind echoing with possibilities, even as flickers of fear lingered just beyond the horizon. Facing the challenge ahead, she questioned how much more she could reveal of herself, not just in her professional endeavors, but in her personal life as well. With each stride towards the door, she envisioned future steps, bigger platforms, broader discussions, but above all, the realization that her greatest opponent wouldn't be the critics outside, but rather the voices of doubt within. As she headed homeward, invigorated and unsettled, an unsettling thought pierced her mind. What if, amidst all this exploration, she discovered something within herself that she had long kept hidden? The next chapter of her journey awaited, and with it, the looming confrontation that would demand everything she had yet to uncover. The following days unfolded with an electrifying combination of anticipation and trepidation. Emily's mind buzzed with a renewed sense of purpose, yet the question Claire posed lingered. What if discovering resilience meant facing not only external conflicts, but also her deepest insecurities? The idea unsettled the very core of her aspirations. Driven by the belief that vulnerability begets strength, she decided to confront this inner turmoil head-on. The coffee discussion had sparked new ideas, yet it also ignited a daunting realization about the necessity of accountability. To morph her abstract vision into a palpable reality, she needed to define the parameters of her journey clearly. First on her list was to cultivate an illuminating dialogue. Her forum would require rules to foster respect and encourage honesty. Setting boundaries felt both empowering and shackling, evoking the fear of confrontation she had just begun to embrace. Drawing from her discussions with Claire and others, Emily began drafting a set of ground rules. As she penned down thoughts like "speak from personal experience" and "listen fully before responding," she felt a mixture of pride and apprehension. Would these guidelines crumple under the weight of raw emotions, or would they allow her vision to flourish? The first experiment loomed close, and the prospect of her friends' reactions made her pulse quicken. Determined to infuse the discussions with authenticity, she invited Claire to join her in preparing for the next step, creating a broader event focused on honest communication. Drawing upon Claire's own experiences, they spent hours brainstorming formats, settings, and potential topics. But as they laid the groundwork, Emily noticed subtle shifts within herself. Rather than merely seeking feedback, she began actively engaging in the creative process, revealing her thoughts with increasing confidence. As they crafted promotional materials together, an unexpected wave of doubt crashed over Emily. What if no one showed up? What if her project failed before it even began? She abruptly halted her pen and stared into space, striving to quell the rising anxiety. It was at that moment a familiar phrase from Michael's earlier conversation flickered in her mind. Fear is an invitation to grow. Galvanized, Emily found the courage to reach out to a wider circle of acquaintances. She turned over her fears into action, utilizing social media to share the event, framing it as an opportunity for exploring authenticity. Each post sent her spirits soaring and plummeting alternately. Would strangers resonate with her intentions, or would they dismiss her efforts as naive? As responses began trickling in, a mixture of excitement and dread bubbled within her. People were interested, some enthusiastic, some skeptical, all curious. The variety of responses mirrored her own introspection, prompting her to reflect even deeper on her motivations. Was success contingent upon numbers, or could true connectivity occur regardless of attendance? Days passed, and as the event drew near, Emily prepped tirelessly. She visualized every possible outcome, hoping to anticipate and manage potential reactions. Amidst this whirlwind, another realization surfaced. Her preparation was merely a tool against uncertainty. Real growth required embracing the unpredictability of vulnerability, acknowledging it as an essential part of meaningful dialogue. On the evening before the event, as she rehearsed her introduction, the size of her challenge crystallized. It wasn't merely an experimental forum anymore. It had transformed into a pivotal moment of both risk and potential growth. With every heartbeat, doubts hung in the air, echoing Claire's earlier query. What would happen when conflict arose? Stepping into the unknown loomed like standing on a precipice, but something within her began to shift. The fear no longer paralyzed her, it invigorated her. As night enveloped her surroundings, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a professional venture. It was a deeply personal exploration, a test of her authenticity and resolve. And the clarity of her purpose began to solidify. This was her chance to rise. But as she prepared to close her eyes that night, a nagging thought flickered in her mind. What if the next confrontation wasn't external, but an encounter with her deepest fears, eclipsing everything she was striving to overcome? An unsettling sensation settled in the pit of her stomach, propelling her toward an even greater challenge ahead. The day of Emily's first forum had arrived, and with it, a cocktail of excitement and apprehension brewed within her. As she stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her blouse, the reflection revealed more than just a determined professional. It exposed someone ready to embrace both the potential for triumph and the risk of failure. This was the moment where she would not only challenge her audience, but also confront her own insecurities. Arriving at the venue, an inviting space nestled within a local community center, Emily felt the atmosphere pulsate with anticipatory energy. She had meticulously prepared, but nothing could quell the tumult in her stomach. With every step towards the entrance, the echoes of her earlier doubts whispered words of caution. What if her vision did not resonate? What if her audience saw through her carefully constructed facade? Yet, even amidst these concerns, the conviction she had cultivated surged forth. This gathering was not solely about her. It was about sharing perspectives, cultivating connections, and fostering dialogue. The very rules she had drafted, to speak from personal experience and to listen fully, emerged as guiding principles in her mind. As the attendees filtered into the room, she realized the gathering was filled with a colorful tapestry of individuals, all carrying unique stories and experiences. With her heart racing, she welcomed them with a genuine smile, noting their curiosity reflected in their eyes. "Thank you all for being here today," she began, her voice steadying as she spoke. "Today is a chance to challenge norms, to explore perspectives, and to engage honestly. I hope we can create a space of mutual respect." The warmth emanating from the room felt like a shared heartbeat. They were in this together. As discussions sparked and flowed, Emily witnessed a shift. Conversations thrived, thoughts expanded. Individuals who once clutched their reservations now offered critiques and counterpoints. The energy was electric, a beautifully chaotic dance of ideas colliding and interweaving. Yet, as anticipated, there came a moment of conflict. A voice chimed in with sharp skepticism, questioning the authenticity of Emily's intentions. The familiar pang of vulnerability hit, but rather than retreating into defensiveness, she leaned into the discomfort. "You raise an important point," Emily said, addressing the individual with composed sincerity. "I am aware of my position and the potential privilege it carries. I'm here to learn and to engage, not just to preach. How can we examine this together?" It was as if a veil lifted. The room's atmosphere transformed, shifting from skepticism to an invigorated collaboration. The ensuing discussion was lively, a blend of perspectives that intertwined empathy with challenge. Emily's confidence fortified as she grasped the reality that discomfort often birthed growth. Reflecting on her journey, the uncertainties that once loomed felt less overwhelming. Every critique gleaned important lessons. Each moment of confrontation etched a deeper understanding within her. Instead of seeing these moments as obstacles, she recognized them as stepping stones shaping her legacy. The evening drew to a close, and as applause filled the room, a wave of fulfillment washed over her. She stood in a place of recognition, both from her peers and herself. Not only had she facilitated thoughtful discourse, but she had also confronted her own fears. In those moments, she had transformed from the anxious girl bound by expectation into a poised woman ready to carve her own path. External validation poured in as attendees shared their takeaways, thanking her for the space she had created. Among them, Claire approached, her eyes sparkling with pride. "You did it, Emily. You turned vulnerability into strength." With a grin, Emily absorbed the acknowledgement. "And it feels right. I'm only just beginning." As she left the venue, a revitalizing sense of solid confidence resonated within her. No longer was she merely honoring her father's teachings, she was solidifying her own beliefs and shaping a legacy defined not only by success, but by the integrity of the journey. The once daunting question of her legacy now felt less intimidating. To cultivate spaces for discourse and to empower others through authentic connections. She had achieved, conquered, and demonstrated that vulnerability and strength could coexist beautifully. This was her moment. She had not only faced her critics, but invited them into the conversation. She had bridged the gap between vulnerability, her truth, and the world around her, establishing herself as a voice of change. And in embracing her authentic self, she became an embodiment of the very sentiments she wished to inspire. There was no turning back now. The journey had just begun. Now is the time to act. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It truly makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful finale. You need to subscribe now and don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of showing their support through these actions.